Have you ever struggled with putting together a finance team for your church? On this episode of Simplified Church TV, we're going to tackle some criteria you should look for the people serving on your team. Check this video out. Hey, it's Josh at Simplified Church TV. In this episode, we're going to talk about what criteria you should look for in people that are going to serve on your finance team. Now, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now, been in church my whole life. I've seen this committee-driven structure in churches. Sometimes we try to sneak around it, and now the trendy, we call them teams. Still the same thing. When we put a group of people together to help guide our church, we want to be very careful about the criteria we're using and choosing those people who will serve. Unfortunately, in many churches, the sole criteria we use for a volunteer is if they have a pulse and can breathe, and sometimes we even wonder that. Now, I want to give you these criteria. I'll put them down in the notes here, but this will really serve you, pastor, to have a framework to filter people through to see if they would actually qualify to be on your finance team. Now, this is not strict, it's not earth-shattering or anything like that, but it does give you something to look for. I would contend that the pastor's role in the finances of the church is that you should have some idea of what's going on. Therefore, you are part of this finance team. Now, we could debate all day long about should you be actually writing checks and things like that as pastor. And I'll put together another video, and I'll put a link here in the description for that video. But right now, we're going to talk solely about the people serving on your finance team. Now, I've been doing this for over 2 decades now, seeing churches. At this point, we have served hundreds of churches. I have horror stories. I've seen it all. I've heard all the stories. I've heard the goods. I've heard the bads. I know pastors. I know this oftentimes becomes one of those areas of heartache for a pastor in dealing with volunteers, dealing with teams and the things like that. And maybe you're just not quite sure where things need to go. We've served hundreds of churches. So I know the landmines. I know the sacred cows. I know what to watch out for. And let me give you some advice here in this criteria of what to look for. First thing, we want to find people that love God and love this local church, your local church. Now, that seems obvious, right? The person attends your church. Of course they love this church. Of course they're Christian. Let's make sure we make that obvious. Let's make sure that is very clear and that person shares with you that they love the Lord, that they are a follower of Jesus, which also leads me into point number 2, which is that person shows evidence of a healthy relationship with Jesus. Now, you might be saying, Josh, we're talking about finance team here. The first 2 criteria is that this person loves the Lord. Let me tell you why I say that. Too many times I've been doing this with too many churches that it's very easy for people in church to hide behind ministry work. If you remember, I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Everybody Loves Raymond. Raymond didn't really want to go to church. His brother Robert did, his wife and kids did, his mom did. His dad even went to church. He didn't really want to go. Well, when he finally went, he realized his dad didn't really go to church. His dad went and picked up the offering, but hung out in the lobby through all the sermon, through all the worship, through all the ministry that was actually happening. That's going on in your church, believe it or not. There are people that will hide behind the work of ministry, but fail at being a growing disciple of Jesus. We want to make sure that this person, above all, is growing in their faith and growing in their walk with Jesus. And we want to make sure that that is evidenced in that person's decision as you interview them. Yes, I said interview. As you interview them to be part of this finance team. Now, here's the third criteria. They need to be a stakeholder in your church. What does that mean? They need to be a giver. And not just a tipper, not just a random when it's convenient giver. They need to be a stakeholder, tither, faithful, committed giver of your church. Now, I've got another video we'll link up here that talks about the 5 different types of givers in the church. Also, a video that talks about should you as pastor know the giving of your church. If someone's going to serve under the stewardship of the resources of the church, they need to have a vested interest in those resources, in that they are a giver. You'd be surprised to know how many churches that we've dealt with who have people on their finance team who have given nothing to that local church. They need to be a giver. Finally, another criteria, they need to have a willingness to agree to a volunteer covenant. Again, I said earlier, usually our criteria on whether or not someone can serve in the church is whether they're breathing and have a pulse. We need to step beyond that. We need to put together a volunteer covenant that people adhere to. This will make your life easier, especially as stuff hits the fan. When ministry gets hard, when you need more commitment from that person. When you're looking for ministry leaders, this is where you can give people, and on the job descriptions of these ministry areas, you can give a level of commitment that this position is going to require. We need people that are willing to commit. And again, goes back to the first criteria. They love this local church. They love your church as part of their service. The other next criteria, they need to buy in to your vision and your leadership. We need people that will adhere to your shepherding of them and your shepherding of the church. Too many times the finance committee dictates to the pastor, dictates to the elders, and that's just not the way this needs to go. The finance committee serves at the direction and vision of the pastor and leadership of the church. And then as the pastor provides a vision and sets a vision, the finance team makes that happen through the resources that are entrusted to the church. Now, the final criteria is this person does need to have a financial understanding of basic finances, or have a good understanding of basic finances. Now, why did I leave that for the last one? Well, let me give you a peek behind the curtain. Church accounting is not rocket science. You don't need an advanced degree to handle church finances. I would contend it's actually much easier than even running the finances for a small business. Now, there are some ins and outs as it pertains to being a not-for-profit. There are some ins and outs as it pertains to being a church specifically as a not-for-profit. It even operates different than a standard not-for-profit. There are some things you need to know, and companies like ours at SimplifyChurch.com are here to help you with those pieces. What we need in your people is a basic understanding of finances. I would contend you don't need an advanced knowledge of finances. Can be beneficial, but can also be detrimental to your church. A lot of times we find people with an advanced knowledge of finances make the finances too difficult. They make things too hard. They actually hinder ministry because they lock everything down, make it too tight, and it makes it too difficult to make anything happen. Or it also makes it difficult for anybody to understand what's going on as we progress through the ministry and the understanding of this church. Hey, I hope these criteria help you. I hope it helps your ministry. I hope this gives you an understanding of what you might be looking for, or maybe answer some questions you might have about your church and putting together a finance team or who should serve. Hey, I'm Josh Henry of SimplifyChurch.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you found the content useful for your ministry. If so, leave us a comment. We'd like to hear from you. Also, like this video, subscribe so you can check out more of what we have to offer in our Simplify Church TV section. If you're seeing this video anywhere other than SimplifyChurch.com, head on over and see what we have there for you to help your ministry. Take advantage of some of our downloads, our resources, and everything we have to offer for your ministry. Thanks for watching.